morning. My name is Bill Amirault, and I want to welcome you to Career Clarity and Purpose. All day today, and recording all of these will be my panel of 14 experts who reveal their strategies to provide career clarity aligned with your true purpose. Was your life and career impacted by COVID? Likely yes. Were you downsized, right-sized, reorged, rift, or let go? Many of us have experienced all of those, some more than once. And maybe you're part of the great resignation, understandably, during COVID. Either way, the guest that I have on now, Kenneth Lang, will talk to us about career clarity and purpose and his experience in terms of where he migrated from in his former career and what he's doing now. And I'll introduce him just briefly here as the LinkedIn introvert and trainer, job search specialist, mentor, top job search expert to follow on LinkedIn. And he's posted hundreds of live events like this as well. He's also Scrum certified, business analyst and product owner, and a proud New York Giants fan. Is that correct, Ken?
Absolutely. Looking forward to this weekend, the first December game in a long time that's meant anything here.
To both New York teams at this point as well. So again, welcome and thank you for taking the time this morning to speak with our audience and have this conversation with me. So you've had several different careers before you got into career coaching. We had this conversation offline. Could you just give a little example as to how those transitions were successful, maybe even unsuccessful, and how did it lead you to where you are now?
Sure. Well, I mean, way back when I was going to go into journalism. That was my whole degree from college. And I wrote for many, many years. And then around 89, 88, 89, the internet started really taking off. And I thought, hey, this would be a really cool thing to do. So then I did a transition to programming. And that worked out well for a little while till I realized I didn't like programming anymore. So then the next pivot became becoming a business analyst. And all throughout everything I've done, I've taken all the skills I've learned and made them work for me. But the one thing I realized after a while was I just didn't like being put down in one specific place. I like working at different places. I like learning new technologies. And what I didn't know at the time in 2019 was when they showed me the door, what I realize now is the last time was such a big relief because I didn't have to deal with things anymore. Who knew that COVID was going to happen 3 or 4 months later? But I think what's helped me out over the years is my experience at going through different places has helped me being very empathetic to people. I know what people have gone through. I was out for 2 years in 2008 to 2010. So it's being a career coach, but it's being someone who can actually talk to people who have gone through this too. I've walked the walks and talked the talk.
Well, as you mentioned, the 2008 through 2010, I remember I had 4 consecutive consulting assignments in the pharmaceutical industries at very, very good hourly rates. And then it all hit the fan in the fall of 08 and my 09, the IRS doesn't think I worked that year, even though I tried anything and everything for, group projects, individual, as an employee, as a consultant, and it didn't work, unfortunately. But either way, we all learn from those things, and we put ourselves in a situation where we can provide value to the individuals that we're working with. So let me just make sure here that I unmute you here a second, Ken. There we go. Okay.
Don't you love technology?
Yeah, I do. I just, there's a bunch of people that came in and they were not muted, so I had to do all that. But anyway, so go ahead. So, speak to what that has meant for you in terms of, you working with clients today. I mean, that experience for a year and a half, whatever it was, certainly has added value to what you bring, that personal empathy.
Well, what I find more than anything else is most people are very insecure. They're very afraid to make the first step. They think that there's something about them, was their fault that they got fired. And what I say to them, and this is one of my mantras, is you may have lost your job, but you haven't lost your experience. Your experience goes with you everywhere you go. So just because you don't have that title, you still have skills. And I think that becomes an aha moment for a lot of people. And even on LinkedIn, when you connect with people, there's no harm in trying to do things. Joey talks a lot about sales on LinkedIn. You're selling yourself, and that is not something that job seekers can do very well. But if you don't sell yourself, who else is going to sell you?
Yeah, and my background is marketing, advertising, sales, so that's kind of a comfort zone for me. But like some of
Mhm.
the clients that I've worked with more technical backgrounds, IT, manufacturing, logistics, or some kind of R&D or engineering type of role. Oftentimes, and this is not just the classification of work that people do, but introvert, extrovert, and
Yeah.
you as a self-professed introvert have made a great impact on those types of folks through your LinkedIn posts, through your live shows and everything else. So how did that come about as well?
Well, first of all, the one thing I've learned over time is I know who I am as a person. I
Hmm.
know what I can and can't do. The scariest thing for me was actually going out there and networking. Um, People that know me really well know that I can go out for an hour or two, and then after that, I need to decompress. And there's
Hmm.
absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think along those lines, one of the most important things you can do is recognize what you can and can't do. I was scared to death the first time I posted on LinkedIn. I thought, oh my God, they're going to criticize me. They're going to shame me. They're going to do this and this and this. And a funny thing happened. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Right.
And then once you realize that all of us that post, we all go through the same thing. It's called imposter syndrome. We are all afraid of what we post and how it's going to come across. So if
Hmm.
we have that as professed LinkedIn experts, you guys will have it too, because there's a lot of insecurity that we all have. We all carry this every day. So a lot of this is about marketing yourself.
Hmm. So when you went from your former careers
Mhm.
into career coaching, just describe how that transition happened and then how you made the best of it. I mean, you've already described some of it right now by posting on LinkedIn, scared to death to do that the first time. But
Yeah.
there's more to it than that.
Well, here's the thing that it really came down to, and Marty talks a lot about elevator pitches and talking about what you do. I'm an IT person, and I can talk from one IT person to another IT person. I can talk lingo, I can talk Scrum, I can talk Agile, I can talk BCP, all that stuff. Means
Hmm.
zero if you're not in IT.
That's
So what I
right.
started to do, and this is where the holidays really come in handy, you talk to people, you dumb it down to a third or fourth grade level as to what you do. Because the more you can explain in a general way, the better it is. So
Hmm.
once you get to that Thanksgiving, holiday dinner, whatever it is, you talk in a very, very general way. And maybe you mention a couple of things after, because if they don't understand, and I don't understand what a lot of people do also. So I need them to explain it to me because I can't help them if they can't tell me what they want to do. I had a call with someone the other day, and after 20 minutes, I'm like, what do you do? What do you want to
Hmm.
do? And
Right.
it's a frustration, but once they get to that aha moment, it's like, wow, what do you do? What do you want to do? Let's just talk English.
Right. So your grandmother understands even
Absolutely.
it make the for those who aren't familiar, Scrum and Agile in the dumbed down phrases or sentences sound like what?
Well, basically, you have two different ways of doing things from a process in IT.
Hmm.
Like when you're doing something, you have an idea of a project. So the first part is you think about the requirements, you then think about the testing, then you think about QA, and then you put it into production. In an agile, you're constantly changing it on the fly. So what you start with may not be what you end with. And there is no end product the way the beginning product was. And that is a very hard mindset for people to understand. It's like you can just tear everything up and start all over again. And that's a good thing because you find things out along the way that don't work. So when I worked at AMC and we actually went from one to the other, there was so much pushback. We have to deliver a product with a time and a date. No, you don't. You have to
Hmm.
deliver a product that meets what the clients want. And it
Hmm.
may not meet what the clients want, but it may meet it later on. So that's a mindset thing. Even with job search is not linear. What you're doing now may change along the way because it has to change. It may have been different than what you were taught.
Well, as you're saying, this agile is an ideal descriptor for what you just put out there. And one of the things that I speak to clients about during job search is assume you're water flowing down a stream and you're avoiding all the big rocks, the stuff that gets
Mhm.
in the way. Do not get into an eddy current, stay in the main stream, and you're going to get to the destination much sooner.
Absolutely. And sometimes you will know more than a lot of people that are quote unquote smarter than you know. It's not in your day-to-day lives, you're doing a lot of things that are based on project management, agile, and waterfall, but you don't realize that. You know, if you think about the skills you're doing each day, whether it's managing a house, managing a budget, trying to coordinate meetings and things, those are all project management skills. Now, are you going to put them down specifically that way on a resume or LinkedIn? No, but never underestimate what you do on a regular day to go through life.
And you know, some of this came up in the previous two calls, is taking for granted those things that you do really well.
Absolutely.
And that, you know, when you line that up with imposter syndrome, it doesn't create what you're looking for. I mean, people have to break through both of those in order to be presenting themselves in the best possible way during job search, not just at the
Right.
interviews, but the networking events and things like that.
Well, even from an age, I mean, I work with people 45 and older, and I'm of that age. I get so tired of hearing the excuses. I get so tired of hearing age discrimination. It exists for everyone, it exists different ways. You
Right.
got to stop using those as hurdles. There are ways you can position yourself, but the first thing is to stop with the impediments.
Yep.
And it could be anything. And I think what's been alluded to before about the job search groups, the career, the accountability groups, you need to have people that are willing to call you out and say, you know what, this is BS.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why it's BS. You know, your
Mhm.
family and friends are going to be supportive in different ways, but you need to go through this journey with other people. You know, Paul talks, we all talk about it. And on this platform, reach out and ask for help. I mean, we all say we're available to help. My only thing is tell me what you need help with. I know you
Exactly.
need help finding a job. I mean, I get that. But if there's a specific thing I can help you with, is it a company you're looking to get into? Is it something that's helpful to me? And it would be indirectly helpful to you too.
Well, as you're saying this, Lisa just posted in the chat, and I worked with her, I think 3 years ago. She just turned 65 and got 3 offers. So
Excellent.
it isn't the age aspect of it. It's what can you do to add value to the organization that you're speaking with? How can you solve their problems? How can you make their issues go away?
I always say you are a mentor. You position yourself as a mentor to mentor a team. The mindsets are always going to be there. And I think the most important thing you can do is alleviate any concerns right off the bat. When you're having an interview, you always want to ask the last questions. And the last question shouldn't be like, when are you going to get back to me? It could be something like, is there anything in my background that you want me to expand on? You know, you want to kind of put things like that, put that out there right off the bat. You always want to be proactive. And it stinks to go through job search. Stinks to go through different things, but the more you work with other people, the better. And most of us are so willing to help. My caveat, and I say this, I will get back to you as soon as I can. And it may be the next day, it may be a couple of days. There's such a frustration from job search people. You don't get back to them right away. Well, there could be reasons for that. Doesn't mean you stop trying. I would be curious to get your sense, Bill. How do you feel about recruiters texting recruiters? Because this is a big discussion we have in the job search community.
Okay.
Emailing is kind of like you're all inundated with emails and no one really picks up the phone anymore the same way. So if a recruiter gives you their cell phone number, how would you feel about being texted or texting them? And I know my thoughts are, but I'd be curious to get a sense of
Yeah, I
yours.
mean, there are all kinds of stories that I hear on a regular basis about being ghosted by recruiters. I personally have had very good success with recruiters in my career. I was placed 5 times over about a 20-year span. And so I have a lot of respect for those who have the connections inside the companies that I might be interested in, or have positions available that I wouldn't have even known about. As far as texting people, I would say, if there's a promise made that you'll get back to you with some update by Friday, and it's Friday, it's okay to say, hey, what's up? You know, what's up with this? You know what? And I believe it's incumbent on the recruiter to at least have the professional courtesy to reply. Don't know yet. No response. Okay,
Right.
which is, you know, not always the best answer, but it is an answer. It's not like you've been completely ghosted. You know, I've been in situations in the last 10 years where recruiters have reached out to me for certain positions and roles, I get back to them with my info and then never hear from them again.
Well, I think there's a couple of things to consider from a job seeker perspective. Recruiters are waiting to hear from hiring managers.
Yes,
Sometimes
right.
hiring managers never get back to them.
That's right.
And recruiters are caught in the middle. And I have a much more respect now for recruiters than I ever did before, because I thought they were the bad guys.
Mhm.
And I think the other aspect of that also is that you want to not be worried about following up right away. And again, what's the worst thing that happens? They don't get back to you.
Yeah.
They don't get back to you. I mean, you know, there's good recruiters, good hiring managers, bad hiring managers. You want to always be looking, and at the same time, just because someone's going to get back to you in a week doesn't mean they're going to get back to you in a week. Stuff happens.
Right. And managing your own expectations about these situations is also important, because if you start to say, oh, I haven't heard from them in 3 weeks, they ghosted me. Okay, there are ways of following up with people that can be constructive. It's like, hey, I just saw an article about A, B, or C, in this publication, wanted to send you the link for it. And you don't even have to say anything about the fact that you're following up with them to see what's going on with the status of your interview. I mean, there are other ways of doing it without being, hey, what's up with this
I
company?
mean, I'm personally like, my last assignment was at my last assignment was at AMC
Mhm.
Networks. And if you follow the news, they're laying off about 20% of the staff.
Right.
Now, I know a bunch of people there, and I'm hoping they reach out to me because I have leads. The thing about it is this, what's going on there, I have a personal connection when I see layoffs at a company, at a place I worked at, because that's happened to me many times. It happened to me at Toys R Us, which is no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
It happened at Bed Bath, which has gone through God knows how many changes.
Yes.
I think the challenge is this. There's a different mindset when people are out of work now. They are not ashamed to post that they're looking for work. Our generation kind of was a little bit. We didn't want people to know too much. You got nothing to lose. Post on LinkedIn that you're looking for a job, but be very specific. Not,
Right.
hey, I just lost my job at AMC, hire me. Be willing to put it out there. I am willing to bet that 4 or 5 people that I know at LinkedIn at AMC are now out of work.
Mhm.
There's no doubt in my mind based on what I'm reading. And we can have a whole discussion about why they're doing what they're doing, but what's done is done.
Exactly.
And the same thing happened, today, I think CNN, this is the way it is now. This is 2008, but it's digital. So you just want to go out there, and just because you're out of work doesn't mean you can't help other people that are out of work.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, you went through this. I mean, you said your last assignment at AMC kind of redirected you to what you're doing right now. And if you could just describe in some detail, I mean, you
Sure.
mentioned that you'd always wanted to be a journalist. I mean, this is, going back
Well,
a ways.
Here's the thing. When I was
Yeah.
at AMC and even the year before, I was already positioning myself to do other stuff.
Okay.
So it didn't just happen right off the bat, but I couldn't really devote as much time. And one of the things I wanted to do, and Marty's on the call, is we wanted to build a platform of all different networking events. And we wanted to talk about that. And I used the opportunity to learn about that. So in 2019, while I was there, I was spending a lot of time on this on the side. And everyone should have a side gig of some type.
Mm-hmm.
Plan it out now. So when it happened, and I was so freaking pissed when it happened because it was such BS and all that, and I stormed out the whole 9 yards because it was the holidays. I took a second to decompress, got the unemployment going, got what I thought were going to be leads going. Next thing you know, COVID happened 3 months later.
Yeah, sure.
So in a way, that was a good thing for me because I had the ability to network in a way I'd never networked before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you have to make lemonade out of lemons. Stuff's going to happen, but you got to plan for you have to plan that your job is going to be ending any moment. You got to plan just because you're out of work to have something in the background. And it can be a thing where you're just doing something on the side. You have skills. You have to be able and willing to do them because you never know when your time is going to come. And I've had people who landed jobs and have lost them a month later.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't know. It's a wild, wild west out there.
No, exactly right. And Marty's posting in the chat, mynetworkingcentral.com, platform for job seekers. It contains networking groups and speakers who help people in
And
transitions.
what we did is we actually created a searchable database. Instead of looking for Meetup or Eventbrite, we're putting a searchable database of where you can find events and speakers and the like. And this is a passion project for us for now,
Sure.
because we were trying to find events. I was trying to find events in places I could go to. And, we just took it to the next level. So if you have that passion project, in some ways, when you're out of work, it's the best time to try something.
Yeah, it's kind of like volunteer work, only putting something out there that's going to benefit more people than just, say, the food bank. And I'm not saying there isn't value to that, but certainly what you just described that you both have put together is of great value on an ongoing basis.
Well, I volunteered at a lot of places during the financial crisis in 2010 that I could, using my skills to best practice. So if you have skills, you want to volunteer where your skills will be best utilized. That's not to say you shouldn't do a food bank. It's not to say you shouldn't volunteer for another organization, but look at what your skills are. I think everyone on this call has some sort of project management skills or some sort of analytical skills. These places need help. And you can never tell where it's going to lead to a job. And it's also good on your resume and your LinkedIn profile to say you're doing things like that.
And it also will bring up, again, I mentioned this in a prior hour, a client that I worked with a few years ago who has been a warehouse manager at Costco for a number of years, got an undergraduate degree and was working on a master's, but was still working in Costco. His biggest accomplishment that would transfer him to what he was doing or has been doing to what he really wants to do was some nonprofit and church related activities where he had a significant leadership role. And those are the skills that he was looking to expound upon in his new position. And he's still in the process of looking. He has, some tenure, obviously, at Costco, which is meaningful. So he's really waiting to get the best possible outcome. But exactly what you're saying. So
And I'm going to say, I'm working with a family member now on a resume, and this is almost a good example. This family member has been out of work in and out for many years. And and I don't want to mention his name, but he's trying to figure out the best way to position himself for different types of opportunities now. And I said to him, and I talked to people in my network who write resumes about this. They said instead of a functional resume, do the resume and list it by specific skills and what companies you did those skills at. So even if you did those skills 5 or 6 years ago, they may still be relevant now. So we're working on a skills-based resume.
I see.
So that may be something, these are your skills and where did you put them into practice? And then maybe you have some bullet points. Now, I'm not a resume expert, but I reached out to people who could help me get it in such a way that it will at least be manageable. So again, if you have a question like that about LinkedIn or something else, ask, because I could probably throw something together off a template. It might look like crap. I'd rather rely on someone else to give me their knowledge. And that's the same thing with any of this.
Yeah, resume is, as I've said to many clients and job search groups previously, it's a print ad with one call to action. And that's for somebody to dial your 10 digits or send you an email because they see enough information on there that says that you're attractive enough. And resumes are all about, to me anyway, they're all about value proposition, headline, subheading, key skills, and those accomplishments and experiences that are going to be of value to whoever happens to be reviewing it. So you've worked with dozens, maybe hundreds of clients since you transitioned into career coaching. And you may have some that are coming along the way, that some of your former colleagues at AMC that may be coming your way that are looking to do some kind of career clarity and transition type of exercise. How do you go about that, and how have you done that with some of your clients to date?
First thing is really to have a conversation. Let's not talk about a resume. Let's not talk about LinkedIn. Let's talk about what did you like and didn't like about your job. Are there things that, in some cases, these clients have had to go to a different field and because some fields are going away. And I've said to them, you got to be realistic. Just because you want to transition from one field to the other doesn't mean it's going to work. I mean, people want to work in pharma because there's a lot of different opportunities here. But if you don't have specific pharma-based skills, it doesn't matter. Transitional skills are not going to happen.
Right.
And everyone wants to work at Google and Facebook and all that because they're on it. That doesn't, unless you're a developer there, it doesn't matter. So let's kind of set the expectations. And I get a lot of people pissed off then. I'm like, okay, I may not be for you, but I'm going to tell you the truth. what worked for me as a consultant for 10 years is I went from place to place and learned technologies
Right.
that were there. And it was hard to do in the beginning, but I made it work for me. But I also learned enough about myself to know what I wasn't going to do and not do. And I lost consulting assignments because I wasn't fitting in, which in retrospect pissed me off. But in hindsight was the best thing that could have happened because it taught me about myself.
Right, right. And you mentioned the one example here a few minutes ago, but others that would be relevant to the taking the skill sets and what they've learned, experiences, and then transitioning into either another career field or another different discipline.
Well, again, everyone has done sales at some point. Everyone has done customer service at some point. Everyone has done some type of technical thing, but it's about what did you do that was specifically value-based. It is not enough to say you've got 10 years of sales experience, I mean, or 20 years or whatever. What are the specific things that you did to save money, to prove out a percentage? What are the specific quantifiable tasks that you can put on that resume to get their attention? Because the thing I see up on LinkedIn all the time is I see the same about section. I'm an experienced person that did A, B, C, and D, and these are my skills. And I'm like, well, that's wonderful, but so are a million other people. I mean,
Yeah, right.
Or it could be 10 million. It's like, you want to be found. And sometimes being found is just putting certain search terms in. Sometimes it's getting out of your comfort zone, because the people that I've connected with over the years, they may not be the best, they may not be the most qualified, but they're people that resonate with me. So you don't have to be the best, but you have to be the best fit.
And how have those conversations that you're describing turned your clients or the people you've mentored, turned their outcomes into something positive? And so some specific examples would be helpful too.
Sure. So I worked with someone, who was referred to me. They had their resume done, and then I worked with them on their LinkedIn profile, and we would have a conversation, and they'll tell me about your conversation, and I'd say, why isn't this on your LinkedIn profile? You're only talking to me. So I would say to this person, after they were on talking to me for 30 minutes, let's work together and let's write that profile together in a way that makes sense. And the biggest challenge most people have is that it's very hard for them to write about themselves. They can talk about what they've done.
Right.
They can talk about, and if there's one mantra when you're on LinkedIn, you want to put it in the tense that it'll serve the next person. What's in it for me as the next employer? What's in it for me as the next hiring manager? What is it about my past background that resonates with you? So you almost have to write, not I am this, I am that, but let me take my skills and do this and this for you because I've done this in the past.
Right.
And that's a conversation I've had many times in different iterations, because again, someone who's just starting out as a college student, and I mentor them at William Patterson here, it's a different conversation. It's like, I don't have enough experience. So let's take the classes you've taken. Let's take the courses, let's take in your experiences and position that into a positive way.
Well, you also, call yourself the LinkedIn introvert and trainer, and I know you've done over 100 live broadcasts, correct? Or what's the right?
I've done a lot, and I am still nervous about them. I still worry about myself, because it's not easy for me. For me to be talking to you is not easy for me. I could prepare for an interview. I could do all the preparation and be on for however long it takes. But for me to be fielding questions and looking at people on this platform, thinking, oh my God, what are they thinking about me? What are they thinking about me? Can you believe that? It's hard. And we all have that, but everyone has that self-doubt. We all have self-doubt. And so I recognize that about myself. I recognize the fact that I have my limitations. There are things I do wrong, and there are things that I'm insecure about. I'm insecure now from years and years ago, because I grew 8-9 inches from 14 to 15.
Oh, wow.
I was lanky. I was like a 6'3", 150-pound string bean who was totally uncoordinated. And those lessons go with you forever, and you learn about that. So I'm okay in my skin now.
Right.
but I have my limits. I mean, Bill, when you reached out to me, I was like, do I really want to do this? Do I want to put myself out there? But then when I saw the people there, I'm like, well, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down with everyone else
You know,
here.
Ken, let me just put it to you this way. I don't think you're addressing the real value you've provided by breaking through your introversion. Okay, because I've seen some of your LinkedIn posts. I've been on a couple of your, broadcast, the live broadcast, and it's great information. And you're coming from a place that a lot of people can truly relate to. I don't happen to be an introvert, and I've said to people that I've never met a microphone I didn't like, but I recognize being married to one and knowing a lot of other people who are introverts. Hey, there's a whole different mindset that goes along with it. And again, not right or wrong. It's just a different
No,
set of things.
I'm married to an extrovert,
There you
and it
go.
works out really well because that extroverted woman has gotten me out of my comfort zone more times than I choose to. I may go kicking and screaming at times, but I think the best post I ever wrote on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
one that I'm proudest of, is I came out of my shell and I said, I'm an introvert. It's okay to admit that. It's okay to post. And maybe you're
Yeah.
not an introvert in the same way as me.
Right.
Maybe you just, I'm extroverted with my family. It's
Hmm.
not the same thing. I can have a conversation, but on this platform, admit who you are. It's okay. It's almost like I used the analogy Revenge of the Nerds, because growing up, I was one of those nerds
Yeah.
for sure. And it was hard. People would ask me like the answers for tests and things, and even now. So I just think knowing who you are is so important. I'm a proud introvert because I admit that this is who I am. That doesn't mean I can't get extroverted at times, but this is who I am. And I think that being genuine has really helped me a lot, because I think people know when they're talking to me, they know not just that I'm listening to them, but I've been in their position and I don't judge people. I will never judge someone because no one wants to be judged. Everyone's situation is different. I've met some great people along the way, people on this call. You guys all mean a lot to me, and I'm serious, because you all helped me out. And I'd like to think I've helped you out too, because we've just built an amazing network, not just here, but on LinkedIn. And I've gotten to know so many people here as I call them networking friends, honestly, because we're all networking friends because we can share certain things. And for that, I will be forever indebted.
Well, one of the comments on here, it says in the chat, Ken is authentic. Okay, need more be said. I think that fulfills everything that you've just been speaking to, and it's because you're coming from a place of authenticity that people can say, hey, look, I can relate to this guy even if I'm not the same, even if I'm different than what he is. At least I get to where he's coming from. So
I've had so many different things happen on my LinkedIn lives over the years that I laugh about now. We did a LinkedIn live. I did a LinkedIn live with someone who talks about interviewing, video interviewing, and her
right,
her 7-year-old son came into the chat. Her 7-year-old son came in and wanted mommy to open up the peanut butter and to make a sandwich. So we made that part of the conversation. This is what happens. Things happen in life.
right. So some of the LinkedIn posts, if you just go, spend a few minutes on that,
Sure.
some of those that you've made and the ones you just said, you mentioned the one you're most proud of, but there are several other subjects that you speak to
Yes.
from the ins and outs of LinkedIn that I think would be valuable, at least to just summarize here, and then people can go look on your post
Sure.
or on your profile to find them in specific order.
The first recommendation is to, if you're going to post, start out 2 to 3 times a day. If you're not sure what to post, first of all, LinkedIn has a whole news feed, and you can follow LinkedIn news articles there and comment on posts there. But even if you're afraid to do that, start engaging on other people's posts.
Mm-hmm.
I got started by engaging in other people's posts because I was scared to death to write something. So I figured, let me just add a comment. And then I replied back to a couple of people, or people replied back to me on the comment, and I connected with them. You have to post about what you know.
Mm-hmm.
And and don't worry about the numbers. It doesn't matter how many views or impressions, whatever they are. You want to build a voice. My voice is, I will give job search tips. I may show LinkedIn changes.
Mm-hmm.
On the weekends, I'm much more personable because the people on LinkedIn then are more engaged. So I may talk about something going on in my life. But again, it's a comfort level. Not everyone wants to post about everything. If you're in job search, mention that you're in job search, mention a little bit about yourself, but don't make it about yourself. Make it about what your skills can help the next person, because you want to have a story out there. And I always suggest, as a final thing, if you're on LinkedIn, do searches on things that are not specific to job search. LinkedIn is a search engine. If you do a search on LinkedIn for I'm hiring, we're hiring, job search, events, other things will come up. So it's like a Google for job search. I don't know if that's a term that's
No,
been taken.
it makes perfect sense. And with 875 million people, or whatever the number is today, probably 900 million shortly enough, it is the forum for professional interactions in whatever way that means. So totally agreed on that. Getting back to, the original part of what we were talking about, and I definitely wanted to go through the LinkedIn pieces of this.
Sure.
Give me a second here. And which you've done. What would your recommendations be? And this is, pretty recent for you relative to some of the other folks that I'll be speaking with today. Recommendations to those who are listening in terms of how to go through this creating career clarity process successfully. And you mentioned your last assignment at AMC into what you're doing right now.
Well, I think you need to know, you have to have a deep look inside. If you are not doing something that, if you're going about job search a certain way and it's not working, maybe you need to fix the way you're doing job search. Maybe you need to fix the career you're looking to go to. But above all, I think clarity comes from asking other people for their feedback, because sometimes you're too close to the situation to really be able to respond to it. So go to a networking group, very important. But above all, ask your best friend. Best thing, ask your best friend who's not going to judge you. Brainstorm with them and vent if need be, because until you know what you're looking to do and what you're looking to get out of it, it's going to be very hard for you to do everything else. And it's not easy, but you want to be very introspective. Maybe you've been out for 2 years and it's because you're in the wrong field. Maybe you need to get technical skills. Everyone's situation is different, but career clarity, and part of it may be you have a misunderstanding or about what's going on there. Everything is different, but you want to be open. I mean, when I was in job search, what I used to do a lot of is I used to watch CNBC all the time, find out what they were talking about, find out what companies are doing well, not well. You have the opportunity. Job search is not a 40-hour-a-week thing. It can be as little or as much as you want to make it. And you want to make sure you really are focused on what you want to do. Be very organized. I'm an IT person. I have spreadsheets out the gazoo about the calls I'm going to be making and the follow-ups I'm going to be making. And I have Calendly to link to my calendar. So maybe the first step is to get organized so you don't do things again and again.
Right. No, makes sense. So any other thoughts, comments that you would want to put out there? And I'm going to ask those who want to put some questions in the chat for Ken that to do that. There's a lot of exchanging of information in the chat, which is all great. Questions specifically for Ken, and then Ken, some final thoughts on successfully navigating through the job search process once you've determined what that
I think the first thing is, don't go it alone. Get your job search group together, your accountability group. Ask questions. Be willing to accept whatever comments, feedback. Have practice interviews, with your coworkers, or rather your job seeker friends. But above all, be authentic. Be authentic. Be real. You're not going to be prejudged. You are not the only one going through this.
Right. And you mentioned this, but back in the 80s and 90s, if for some reason you got fired or downsized or whatever, it was a stigma, where it's the norm today. And it's just a matter of reaching out in ways where you can resolve other people's and other companies' issues, and being very upfront about that. You mentioned being authentic, being real, and those types of things. So any thoughts, questions in the chat? Do you use a CRM type of spreadsheet or self-made to track your info?
Well, one of my contacts, who I know on LinkedIn, actually created a template that I use, which I'd be happy to share, with you. It's a template which has different tabs about what you've done when and what you need to do. Because I used to do a spreadsheet with tabs, but I'm happy to share that with you, Bill, to send out to everyone else, because it's really about getting organized. And I started out in 2008. I have a Word doc, and it just drove me crazy. And the other thing to think about when you're doing this is, if you can have a separate email address for job search, sometimes that might help to keep track of all the leads and things. Again, it's all about what organization works for you, you know.
Right.
And so what works for me now may not work for you, but again, I'll send that tab. Sarah Johnson, who is the briefcase coach, who some of you guys may know of, she shared that with me a while ago. We all help and support each other, and I'm happy to do that as well. So Bill, just as a reminder, if I don't get back to it the right away, nag me, remind me, whatever is needed.
All right, so I'm just going to write a note here that says spreadsheet or the connection to it. And if you could type it into the chat in terms of that, and obviously we'll have these are recorded, so we will have your contact information.
What I'm going to do now is I'm going to retype my LinkedIn URL, because if you ask for it that way, at least I'll be able to get back to you, because Sarah was gracious enough a while ago to say that I could share this with anyone, because she cares like we all care, and she has gone through financial stuff too. So that's my LinkedIn URL. So just reach out to me. If we're connected, just message me. Don't be afraid. You know, and I'm looking at the chat now. I'm just going to scroll up.
Yeah, there's a question just before what you posted with your LinkedIn URL. When you spoke about the imposter syndrome, about posting on LinkedIn, I realized I'm more concerned not only about sounding like a jerk, but sounding like a jerk forever, because once you post, it's a forever record. That scares me. Any thoughts or reactions to that?
Well, anything you do digitally is a permanent record. Every email you send, every purchase you make online. I mean, I couldn't write about being financial. I couldn't write about how to be a financial advisor. That'd be stupid of me to do that.
Right.
But I'm comfortable sharing what I know about. If you're that afraid to post, if you're that afraid to engage, you're losing out on an opportunity. And maybe the answer is just to engage with other people. Go to someone's post and put a comment there. And it could be a comment about, I have a question for you, or can you clarify this? I mean, don't overthink this. I mean, 100%. I said again and again, do not overthink this. It's not rocket science, you know, to do this.
And 100%. And I've coached clients to have this same reaction, is trust yourself, trust your experience, and trust your knowledge. And if you're communicating from that perspective in an authentic way, I don't think you can go wrong. There may be people that disagree with you, and
people will disagree, and there are people I disagree with. And one of Andy Foote and I, we have talked a lot about this. We disagree off the platform. We don't go into a digital fisticuffs online, because it serves no purpose, but we'll take our conversation offline, because that's the way it should be.
Right. And I've seen, to that end, I've seen some of the political fisticuffs on there. I'm saying, what are you doing? If
you're posting political, no.
I agree.
No.
100%.
No, I mean, I know some people post about things. I'm all for supporting certain causes and things, but you don't want to go there in some cases, because there's no benefit.
Yep, exactly. So, well, Ken, I truly enjoyed our conversation this morning, and as long as Zoom Cloud has recorded it, we're going to be having these available in a package. Thanks for your time here, Ken, this morning, and your insights, your experience, perspective, very, very valuable, and we'll go from there.
Thanks for having me, and thanks everyone for joining today.
You got it. Okay.